Still creates the offer. Knife! Die, monster! You don't deserve to live in this world. Stab, 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 stab. And that was the end of that. Everything would be, and remain the same. Everything would return to normal, never changing. You flag bearers stack their bonuses. No. But then again, that was said, and then during a versus mode, I remember our team lost to someone who had like 8 flag bearers. So I don't know. I don't think they're meant to. Oh, hint about flag bearers. They only get better at every milestone, so don't feel you have to upgrade them as much as other units, like say warriors and tanks and rogues. Those are the more important ones, especially rogues if you want to get those treasure chests. You want to smash those treasure chests and get all that extra gold. Page 9. Didn't Miriam Mars, she had forgotten about her work until midday. She had spent the day sitting around the dining room table with the children. She had prepared them all cereal, and it sat untouched in front of them. Jane found herself too exhausted to eat much herself. Clearly none of them had an appetite. She asked them questions, all 5 of them individually. Bloody hell, 5?! She knew they looked the same, but it didn't mean they wanted to be treated the same. She identified her first little girl as the most confident. She had pointed and shown distress and resistance. Her first boy was attentive. He very occasionally would do something that his siblings would not. The twin girls were affectionate. They often stood close to one another, their skin touching, though one always the first to move closer than they briefly separated. The smallest boy was sweet. The way he looked up at her melted her heart a little. She smiled at them all in silence. She suddenly didn't care for work. They would only send her home. Jane found herself reluctant to leave the house at all. Finally she stood and began collecting away the dishes. "Go sit in there now," she spoke lightly. They filled out the room after her and gathered at the entrance of the living room, watching and waiting for her. She disappeared from their sight, and she noted that they stayed in the room as she told them to. Jane allowed herself to smile a little. She never thought she'd become content. There was still fear, but it no longer gripped her. She was free. Jane returned to her children. They were gathered by the fireplace. She had lit the fire when they had first descended the stairs together. It warmed the room nicely, but they were standing too close. Their eyes were immediately on her as she entered the room, following her. Come away from the fire, she beckoned. Them over. They did as she said. You don't want to burn yourself. Come with us, they all spoke together. It startled her. It was the first time they'd spoken outside her bedroom. She swallowed down her fear and clasped her shaking hands together. I'll come with you, if you tell me where. Their heads all snapped to the fireplace and began filing one by one over it. Come with us. They spoke again. Jane parted her lips to warn them of the fire once more, but was met with horror as the twin girls both climbed into the flames. Come with us. The duo spoke at her, returning her gaze as they crouched in the burning heat. No! Jane screamed at them. She pulled the remaining 3 away from the fire. They looked at her with bland faces. You'll burn! She tried to reach for the twins. It burned at her hands and her arms, but she continued to tug at them. Her heartbeat was loud in her ears. Her frantic movements were no use. The children only seemed to burn, their skin growing red and blistered. The dresses they wore were slowly eaten by the flames, their hair also beginning to fall in locks. Jane dropped to her knees at the fireplace. She held out raw hands. They didn't speak. They didn't scream. They just melted away right in front of her. Jane couldn't stop the tears that certainly staked down her cheeks. Ugh. That's a horrible ending. I mean, I'm gonna put many attack types. Yeah,